It's getting slower every night, isn't it, to kick off? It's definitely getting slower. Evening OG, evening Scully. What's the names? I've been following a little evening Lindsay. I've been following a little kind of trend of a particular chain of events just now with Greater Manchester Police, who are in the middle of Operation AVRO. Operation AVRO is it's classified as a local crime blitz. Yeah, I'm definitely being shadow banned. The numbers are falling every night, and I'm getting messages saying no one can find the channel. Anyway, life goes on. So Operation AVRO is a local crime blitz, but it's done regionally. In Manchester, it was the Cheetham Hill replica clothing market, because they believe that all of that money, although it is classified as criminal, they believe that it funds drugs and human trafficking and all the rest of it. I actually know some guys that have done replica clothing for over 30 years and they've never been involved in drugs or any other form of crime. They're purely into, you know, forgeries and replica stuff. I'm saying that's okay. It's just that that's the life they chose, but they're certainly not into anything else. Not that that counts for everybody. My point being, they're making a massive song and dance about Operation AVRO's success, and it's all I see right across the whole board is low-level crime being targeted. They're in Rochdale just now doing road traffic stops. Funny old thing. Road traffic offences, funny old thing. A huge revenue windfall, an easy way to take money from the public purse into their pot. Remember last night, your pocket into their pocket. Road traffic offences. Do you think that it was just one of these things that they'd done away with the visible tax disc in your windscreen? That was every time you walked towards the front of your vehicle, that was your reminder, because it was staring you directly in the face. See, in the first year that they stopped putting it in the window, I wrote a freedom information request to the DVLA to see how many numbers the fines had spiked for people that forgot to tax their vehicles, and they wouldn't entertain me. But it was in the millions. They issued millions of fines because people who, for the most part, are not criminally minded, they're good, decent people, just forgot to do it. They just forgot to tax their vehicles. But in the interim, they were happy to rake millions of pounds from people. Tens, hundreds of millions, possibly. So that's why I'm always so sceptical, because I always look at things way beyond what they present in the public domain, because there's usually always a much more sinister agenda. Usually, always. So that annoys me, because it's deception, and yet they're branding you as dishonest, but they're actually funding themselves by dishonesty, pure dishonesty. Dishonesty in its purest form, black magic. It's done right in front of your face, and they do it in full knowledge that they can do it and they can get away with it, and that it's stamped as acceptable by the governing bodies. So in Rochdale just now, you've got the Chief of Police in Rochdale on the news yesterday and today, you know, commending his force, commending his officers for taking, you know, 10,000 illicit cigarettes out of circulation and capturing 300 vehicles that maybe weren't taxed or had dodgy MOTs or whatever, okay? And I know that there's a time and a place for that, but bearing in mind, guys, we're 20 years down the line. We're actually 30 years down the line from the very beginning of the grooming gang scandals, okay, the cover-ups, where all of the local councillors and stuff that were all involved in it and covered it up and acted like it didn't happen, that it wasn't going on, that it didn't happen, and all of the officers that were involved in the corruption and the cover-up, who all retired with big pensions and everybody else, and all of those guys that got deportation orders and not one of them was ever fulfilled. These are the same cops now patting themselves in the back. But there's a sleight of hand at play here, guys. While Operation AVRO's been going on, here, right behind it, there's been another major operation which has been an investigation, a very, very expensive investigation into the handling of the grooming gangs and the investigations, okay? Evening, Brindle. Now, why have they ran them simultaneously? It's because one precedes the other on the news. If they can come onto the telly, camera in face, and deliver some good news, 10,000 cigarettes, that's not even a car boot full. It's not even a car boot full. It's actually probably only a suitcase full. A decent sized suitcase, that's all that is, but it sounds like a big number. It's not a big number. It's not a big number. I used to board ferries in the maritime game that had 10 million cigarettes on board, and that wasn't that big a consignment. It didn't look that big. It was a couple of container loads, and that was 10 and 20 million at a time. So it's all smoke and mirrors, it's all sleight of hand, it's all black magic. This is what they do. But they're not fooling me. They're not fooling me at all. So they're on there patting themselves in the back. Operation AVRO, regional crime blitz. It's a supersonic success and we're amazing. We're Greater Manchester Police. We've got Rochdale under control. No, you haven't. Because all the beasts that did all the rape of young white girls from Rochdale and Rotherham and Luton and every other town and city in England, which over 90% of the gangs were predominantly Pakistani. My information comes from the National Crime Agency's database, so don't shoot the messenger. We're still waiting on the truth for the Laura Wilsons of the world. On my community page, I've shared a document that I did a few months ago, and Laura Wilson is the subject matter. A young girl that was brutalised most of her life and then dispatched by her boyfriend in the most barbaric way. And the reason if he's going to give it a watch, and I would appreciate it if you do, is because I don't think she's had justice. I don't think any of them have had justice. I don't. And you might say, well, why are you so bothered and concerned by it? I'm concerned for it. I'm concerned because who's going to be next? It could be anybody's daughter. Because it's like, see that cancer of systematic organised abuse? It's like an octopus. It grows arms and legs and it gets everywhere. So where is it going to end? See, if you don't cut the head off the octopus, it just keeps going and it gets around. So where is it going to end? It's already here in Scotland, it's working its way north. It's in all the Glasgow suburbs. It's all over the northeast and northwest England. It's all down Birmingham. It's everywhere. In the grooming gangs video that I do on the Spartan Facebook page, you'll see me listing every single place that's had a grooming gang investigation. It's unbelievable numbers. I'm not talking about 5 or 6. I'm not talking about 5 or 6 guys. I'm talking about tens and tens of dozens here, with thousands of victims. And I don't think, all these years later, I don't think that they've had justice. Well, I'm going to rephrase that, okay? I'm not going to leave such a cloudy statement saying I don't think. I absolutely categorically know that they've not had justice. Absolutely, categorically no. Okay? I know it for a fact because it costs too much money to do the job properly. Everything I say about UK policing is the absolute truth and my absolute interpretation of the available information and the way that I dissect it, analyse it and consume it. That is my take on it. And until someone who's a peer educates me more accurately or corrects me, my opinion's never going to change. Because I don't see change being implemented. All I see is smoke and mirrors. And that's why, I think that's why we exist. I think for the most part, that's why people like me get into it and go and pursue it and expose it and highlight it and shine a light on it. I just think that it's completely out of control and the burden's too great. There's not enough police, there's not enough available funding. Any available funding that is there, and it is significant, it's administered incorrectly, and they're far too top heavy with officers. You know, they act like a commission. There's just too many at the top. It's too top heavy. We grossly exaggerated salaries and pension packages, and I think the whole essence of policing has been lost. That's what I think. I need to stop. See, every time I say that's what I think, going to correct me. That's what I know. That is what I absolutely know. In my heart, that's what I know. I know that to be true. It's an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle. It's a fight. And at times, I say to myself, how different would life be had I never looked? I'll be honest with you, I'm glad I did look, because they're not fooling me. All their chat, all their tomfoolery in front of the cameras. They must think, right, and this is a direct insult to every single one of us, including me, they must think we're all absolutely stupid. I'm going to have to get down to England and I'm going to have to get into these communities That's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to do my own investigative journalism because I don't rely on anyone else to find information for me. That kind of information, it's best found with your feet in the ground, in the lion's den, right at the coalface. But as much as I'm sitting here in front of you, I absolutely, truly believe, thanks Danny, I absolutely believe 100% that once the cameras stop rolling, that these senior officers walk away going, that'll do them for a few months, keep them back in their boxes. While they're running away with container loads of clothing and dodgy Nike Air Max and incinerating it, and you know, you think all that stuff doesn't go home as Christmas presents? Don't be fooled, guys, seriously. Don't be fooled. I follow the draw. I follow whatever draws me the most, and something's pulling me. It's like magnetism. Something's pulling me towards going and searching and finding out for myself in those communities, just to consolidate and verify that which I already know. Makes me angry because what I never seen, right guys, what I never seen was this volume of administration and personnel and funding directed into investigating child rape gangs. Let's call them what they are. Grooming's a very soft word. Grooming's a sanitised word. They're rape gangs. A man doesn't groom a minor, okay, a young girl, to just get in friendly terms and, you know, buy her stuff and have a little kiss and a cuddle. It's about the whole thing. It's about rape. When you engage, no minor can consent. Okay, a minor's legally not allowed to consent to sex for very good reason. Because they're minors, biologically, scientifically, in the Western world, they're considered minors. They're not considered fit mentally, and they're not considered biologically, you know, to have the capacity to make that decision. And it's a really good thing that we have it right there at 16. I personally think it should be 18 these days. The counter-argument to that is that kids are getting more educated and they're growing up quicker. I understand that, but we're blurring the lines too much. Okay? And the politicians don't want to talk about what I'm talking about. Show me one politician anywhere that spoke about this in Parliament, Westminster, in anywhere. Show me any politician that wants to talk like this. Everybody's embarrassed. See in Britain, see in the UK, we're our own worst enemy because we're so taboo around sex and around nasty, unsavoury behaviours. We're so taboo around it. You get shadow banned for saying the pedo word. You get shadow banned for printing the nonce word. You get your channel struck for giving your honest opinion on other YouTubers that are rapists and child abusers. I call everybody out. And you get shadow banned for it and you get struck. Do you know what you're getting struck for? You're getting struck for being honest. Right? You're being struck for being honest. OG's an admin in this channel. And regardless of what OG gets involved in with online spats and stuff, OG calls a spade and calls out what he sees. And he gets his channel struck and shadow banned and silenced. They cannot handle the truth. Why? Because it brings traffic. All the unsavoury characters are the traffic to the app platforms. If you remove all the sex offenders out of the equation of the number of people that's online on a daily basis, you're doing away with 1/4 of the pie. Okay? You're doing away with 1/4 of the pie. Somebody's asking me about the Luke Mitchell case. Ask me at the end of the video and we'll get to it. I don't want to digress too much. When you take that away, if you banish them, because if you don't think that they know what people are typing to one another in private chat rooms and talking sexually to children, they know whose account it is. The algorithm, listen guys, this is the magic, right? This is the proof in the pudding that I know they're all full of shit. The algorithm knows your age. Now, I don't really truly know what the algorithm is. I just know that it's a supersonic brain. And it knows what age you are by your dialect and by your articulation online and your capacity for words and knowledge and spelling and punctuation and everything. Right? It recognises it and it's able to bracket you. And then it links you to a potential market that you might like. Consumer products, adverts, reels, stuff that you're going to watch, stuff that you're going to share. That's what it's designed to do. So if you don't think that this big super brain knows who's on talking to kids and all the other crap, they're able to ping people talking about mentioning the word bomb and jokingly saying, oh, I'm going to do this to a plane, you know, it pounces on them. It knows exactly what everybody's doing. So it knows exactly how big the piece of the market is for who's online doing it. Of course it does. That's what it's designed for. The US Senate just now are grilling Zuckerberg because he does nothing to safeguard minors on his platform. It's his absolute fundamental moral obligation to safeguard children on his platform. He knows his platform's full of predators. He's standing in front of the US Senate saying that he isn't aware of online grooming and that he doesn't know teams like us exist. He's a barefaced liar. You can't know. He's linked to the top 3 or 4 people on planet Earth. Linked financially to them. Musk, Bezos, all of these, they're all linked, right? Because they are the absolute top drawer earners on planet Earth. They literally control the economy with this algorithm. Nothing's by chance. Mortgage rates are not going up by chance. We'll get to that. It's all pre-designed, it's all pre-agreed. And they hit the button and up it goes. So I know for a fact that the reason they don't tap into that market and do away with that market is because they know deep down how big that market is and how monetized that market is and what it actually does for their apps and their platforms and all of the databases and all of the networking that it uses. Sorry, I need to read a comment. So Alex, if an algorithm was designed or anything designed, I'm not sure what you mean, Danny. I'm not sure what you mean. If it was designed by somebody, you're asking me, then who are they? Yeah, absolutely. They've got a predatory mindset. If that's what you're asking me. If you could be a wee tiny bit clearer, mate. It's, your comments kind of... I'm maybe misreading it, mate. But no, I absolutely believe 100% that these people know exactly what they're doing. Of course they do. They're in complete and utter control. They've got the best people on the planet. Jay the Rage Redwood New. Just tuned in. Love, peace and respect from the valleys in Wales. Rhonda, you for the Rhonda Valleys, mate? I've got a lot of pals down that way. Guys I served with. Yep, Danny, you're right. Anything design must have a designer. Absolutely it does. And they know exactly what they're doing. That's why they drop the safeguarding and they put in loads and loads of in old days it was called cheats in a computer game that give you more power or something, like Super Mario. I've never played computers, so I don't know, but I get the basics. Basically, they set their safeguarding up to fail and to be easily accessed and bypassed. TikTok, 13-year-olds, you don't need to show ID, it's so easy to do. You just hit the button and say you're 13. So who designed me? Don't know what you mean by that. I designed me. I'm a product of my own creation. And I know what I like and I know what I absolutely despise. So I hope that answers your question. How you doing, Alan? Hope you're well, mate. So that's my take on it. And that's where I believe needs the biggest portion of the investigation, right? That's what needs looking at. Yes, Zuckerberg's currently being held accountable in front of the US Senate, but he's answering everything with he doesn't know. He doesn't know. I don't know the answer to that. You do know the answer to it because you are the head of the octopus and nothing occurs without his say-so. He is the man. He built a platform, him and his mate, that's basically globalised this planet. It's shrunk this planet. You're linked to everybody, and by doing that, you've basically given them a green light, and you've given them direct access to the menu. Now, the menu is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about children online, okay? It's going to sound quite unpleasant, but let's just cut the bullshit. There are items in a menu, so when these scumbags are online putting the feelers out and pinging out the friends requests, your children are items on a menu and they just go down the menu selecting them one at a time. Starter, mains, and I'll have 2 for dessert. Friends requests, ping, ping, ping. Friends request accepted. A little bit of friendliness, a little incentivisation, a little incentive for them, a little gift. Bring them into a private chat room. See, at that point, guys, you will be lucky if you get an intervention by a team or by us or by them. Because if you don't get an intervention, we all know what happens. Light beats dark every time. You better believe it does, Jay. Absolutely. Absolutely. You've got Dank Dragon down in Wales. They're a good team. Good bunch of guys doing their thing. So this algorithm's terrifying, and it all, from there, it all slides down the scale. And at the head of policing, okay, you don't see enough investment in this problem. Why is it not getting rolled out? Why is there not pop-up ads which occur every single time I look online for all sorts of crap that I don't need, but there's never a pop-up ad how to protect children? Why is that so insignificant? Why is it not seen as important enough? Am I imagining what I see on a daily basis? Don't think so. I can verify anything. When I say to you there's 100,000 predators on these 3 or 4 platforms at any one time, that's quite easy to quantify. One of the biggest alarm bells being that if a platform like Discord or something, or Omegle or something that's built predominantly for children to talk to each other safely is full with a 30, 40, 50% portion of men at 35 and 40 and over, what have they even got to be on that platform for? What could a man my age, for instance, possibly talk to a stranger's children about for more than 2 minutes and say, "Hi, how you doing?" What more could you talk about? There isn't a conversation to be had. For a start, they're not your kids, so you know nothing about them. These adults are on these platforms purely to exploit and gratify themselves in the most devious, deceptive way. They don't care. I agree with you, Danny. I'm not a godly person, mate. I'm not a God-fearing man. I don't fear the end of anything. The end's the end, and I'm not into the God stuff. But I respect faith. I respect the energy of faith. You know, I sometimes wish I was more faithful, but I'm just not. I've not got the capacity for it. I've not got the concentration span for it. Or maybe I've seen too much bad stuff. But I do appreciate your input here. I've seen the work of the devil, Danny. I've definitely seen the work of the devil. I've seen that with my own eyes. Seen the work of the devil in West Africa. Yeah. Devils exist. They come in the shape of men. Believe me, they do. Yep. So, anyway. So, Operation AVRO's ongoing. They're going region to region. And I just don't think it's acceptable that this is the priority and that this is where the budget's going. It's not, they're not, listen guys, the police are never spending money, okay? They are never spending money to make your community safer. They are making money. You've got to spend money to make money. So for whatever percentage of their budget they throw into a community, the accountants at the top have already done the math and already worked out the return on it, and it's coming back out the community tenfold via fines, stealth taxes. They spend money to make money. They will never invest in a community to make it better. They need crime and they need criminality, every single form of it, to keep the wheels of the machine turning. Guys, I'm acutely aware, right, that I might be all doom and gloom. You know, am I worried about it? No, but I hope that you don't think I'm a pure sad case, alright, when all I think about is bad stuff. But my eyes are wide open and really all I see is bad stuff. All I see is people with their heads down. Why is that? Why? What happened to this once, you know, pretty good country? Maybe never fantastic, but a pretty solid, pretty staunch country with good solid people in it. What happened to them? Why is everyone's heads down? Why is everyone on the breadline? Why is everyone destitute? Why can no one get seen by a GP? Why can no one get a dentist appointment? What happened? Why can most people not afford a car or even public transport? People are broke. What went wrong? Now, HSBC, the Bank of England, all the conglomerates, all the banking dynasties, whatever you want to call them, they're just about to whack all the fees up for all the mortgages. What's Alan saying? Alan's an interesting guy. Correct, Alan, I agree with you, mate. Now, so people that have worked it out so that at the end of the month, you know, they've got this little bit left, right, to live on. Once they horse the mortgages up and they're all tied into these fraudulent deals, that little bit evaporates. So what are they going to live on? It's not money they were saving, it's money they were spending in food and heating their house and, you know, keeping their children. Once that money dries up to service the house, everybody's going to default. I've spoke to you before, guys, about the fabricated collapse of the property game in 2007, 08. All masterminded, all fabricated to oversell these properties, get you into massive debt, then take them back at repossession and still pursue you for the debt. So you still get pursued for the debt, but you don't get the house. And you think that's acceptable, and you think that's not fraud and deception and part of a globally agreed psychopathic entity to just defraud people planet-wide? Of course it is. Banks are run by psychos. Banks were built on stolen money. All the banking dynasties, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, banks are built on stolen money. Just like landowners. Scotland had the same 5 or 6 landowners for 500 years. It was all stolen from peasant farmers by English kings and given back to them. Richard Longshanks giving it back to them and then taking a tax and a rent from them. You think the Duke of Buccleuch and the Duke of Argyll and the Duke of Montrose were nice guys? They were scumbags. And this is the mantra. You shall own nothing and be happy. This is now the crack. And another interesting thing, right, is that everybody knows that's the crack and everyone's reciting that on their social media. We shall own nothing and be happy, but are they actually comprehending just how serious that statement is? Because that is actually currently being implemented. You pay your mortgage off, right, and you default on something else, a business agreement, a business, whatever. The first asset they come after is your house. Did you ever own your house in the first place? The answer, sadly, is no. Because it will always be the pawn that they go and play for. They'll always come for it. It's your biggest asset. They don't bother coming and taking cars and crap like that. Take your house, sell it for its full face value, charge you 20k in legal fees and everything else, and everybody gets a slice and you'll get the dregs back, what's left. I know somebody that paid a mortgage for 27 years on a house that they probably bought for 20 grand back in the day. It's now worth 140, 150. Paid the mortgage for 27 years, owed 15 grand in the house, took ill, missed some payments, bank took the house off them. Never missed a payment in 27 years. Tell me that's not criminal behaviour from a bank. Bearing in mind, in the 27 year, the pot of interest that they've accumulated on that loan, right? The person remortgaged a couple of times over the years, 40 grand once, 60, 70 grand the other time, 10 years later, always paid it back, got it back down to like 15 grand owed. Good customer, and that would suggest that they were a good customer. They took the house, don't care. And when the market collapsed, they took all the houses back that they had oversold. They had basically been saying to people, your house is worth 300 grand, when in the real world, your house was worth 180, 190. People were all excited saying, oh, I got 150 grand over the asking price. If somebody came to me and offered me 150 grand over the asking price for my house, I would go and tell them to go and see a doctor about and have their head checked, because I'd be like, there's something wrong with your brain, mate. That's not, there's something seriously wrong here. If the home report tells you it's worth 100 grand, that's roughly what it's worth. People were getting in and going, I'll give you 200 grand for it, because the market fabricated a desperate need for housing, right? Which makes it, not a buyer's market, it's a seller's market at that point. But then if you're the seller, what are you then going to buy? It's all lies. The money's all fake. The banks don't have money. They don't have physical cash. They tell you they've got physical cash. Go in and walk into a bank and say, right, if you've got it in your account, say, right, I need that 80 grand out of my account. They'll tell you 5 days for it, because they've got to get it printed off and get it ran up. They don't have physical cash. It's all digital, and it's all digital debt, and they just slide it about the place. They're all liars. They're all full of shit. The banks just don't have money. But they control your life, and they control the outcome and the end of your life when you're looking to have no more, living mortgage free. and then maybe downsize and have a nice pot to enjoy, they've already got you lined up for a fall because they bombard you with very, very attractive debt. And they know that they only need 30 or 40% of people to agree to that, and then they're back on top again. That's it. It's all fake money. And all the fake billionaires as well. You know, I'd love to see anybody pulling £1 billion out their current account. I don't know. I worry for people that can't see this coming and protect themselves. I worry for people because no decent person deserves to be railroaded out of their home by a bank because they've defaulted a little bit through illness or some other unavoidable, out of their control reason, and then the vultures swoop in. Scotland's slightly better. England's horrific for it. England's just full of those Marstons, bailiffs, those bullying scumbags. I'd love to have a house in England so I could, like, you know, deliberately default so they would come to my door. I'd have a field day with them. Horrible, horrible people. So, it's interesting. And also, like the banks that talk utter crap and spin, you know, spin the narrative constantly, the police do the same thing about how successful their operations are. I could rhyme off 150 operations that haven't been that great, but they spin them that they're awesome. And I'm like, no, I'm not buying it. You haven't been that successful and you haven't really put a dent in local crime. You've literally mopped up the crime that the local crime lords want you to know about. Because see, the real crime, they don't even scratch the surface with the real crime. People crime, you know, proper crime. The moving of the trafficking of human beings, you know, all the illegal immigrants getting working for, you know, £1.50 an hour, and literally modern day slavery, all the other stuff that goes on, they don't go near it. They don't go near it. They do a little token investigation, a little token gesture, keep the public happy, call it something fancy, print some statistics in a news drop, and then they get back to what they do best, which is taxing the public. The Cheetham Hill part of the operation was called Op Vulcan, when they cleaned out Cheetham Hill in Manchester. The guys just moved online. They just moved onto TikTok and done it for their houses and their garages. That's all they do. That's what they do. Waqar Hussain, he's one of the main guys in Rochdale, one of the main crime lords, absolute scumbag. Literally was untouchable. I think the police got him in a car fine or some fine outstanding in his car, a road traffic offence. He's a major criminal, and he's like called the daddy. Locally they call him like the daddy or something. And the top guy in the Rochdale scandal was Shabir Ahmed. Shabir Ahmed was a dangerous, horrible, nasty, predatory paedophile, and he had an absolute appetite for young white girls. He would drug them, get them on the booze, get them drugged up, get them into the kebab shops, you know, give them free food, because it's peanuts to give out hoagie wraps to kids. You get them on side, remember what I said, you first thing they do is incentivise them, show them some friendliness. They can tell who's vulnerable, they can tell who's for a fractured home. If kids are out till 1 and 2 in the morning with the same clothes on 5 days in the trot, that paints a picture. Correct, Georgina, they did have politicians and councillors in their pockets, all of them did. And that was their get out of jail card, because they spoke up for them and said, no, these are upstanding members of this community. while they were in full knowledge, we now know factually they were in full knowledge that they knew these guys were procuring and systematically abusing young girls en masse. En masse. This wasn't one or two events. A firing squad would be too good for these guys. And the lies that were told, okay? The lies that were being told about that the police had the handle on it. They never had the handle on it. They barely scratched the surface. That's why it is imperative that those names that lost their lives to it, and by the way, not just in the physical sense, some of the young girls lost their lives physically. A lot of them lost their lives mentally forever. They'll never recover from that level of exploitation. And the sentences didn't equate. The sentences passed down didn't equate. It didn't make sense. It should have been life restriction orders across the board. It shouldn't be 4 and 5 year sentences. Rape of an adult is a horrific event. The rape of a child is unfathomable. It's just, I don't know, it's just different. It's just, I struggle to even pocket it in a spectrum of criminality. It's like, you know, they set themselves up for a long process. They identify, they then get them on board, they groom them, they treat them well, they get them phones, SIM cards, top-ups, Amazon vouchers, buy them vapes, feed them, and then they're trafficked to this flat and that flat, and then they're passed around. And they normalise it with them, because I'm going to say something here, I don't say this lightly. What some of these young girls might have known in these flats with these gangs may have been better than the life they knew at home. And that leaves an awful lot to think about. If being brutalised by many adult males regularly and being trafficked all over the town or city you live in for that purpose is better than the life you knew, because they literally normalise it and make it appear like it's affection and stuff. So, you know, I try and manipulate my mind to think the way they think, because it helps me work out another part of the puzzle when we're in pursuit. But there is a limit, you know, a cut-off where I just can't go any further, because you have to be that person fundamentally, and foremost you actually have to be that person. So I'm only surmising that I'm thinking the same as them in order to try and beat them to the punch. I know that I've caught a few guys that are extremely dangerous, they're like way up there dangerous, and I've caught them through absolute intuition. You know, just basic, just working it out. And but these guys, these big gang leaders that monetize, you know, children in communities and then exploit them with their mates. Yeah, a court and a jail, a prison sentence is not justice. It's nowhere near justice. It's not the type of justice that I would hand out if I was sitting in the hot seat. they certainly, when you think about committing it again, that would be for sure. Unfortunately, we don't live in that world. We live in a world that's really no fit for purpose. Our judiciary have so much to answer for when they release these guys back into communities with the NFA chat, you know, no further action. Evidence didn't stack up, CPS rejected it. So there you go. Tomorrow night, I'm going to talk about a certain sport and the fact that it has now been turned into something else without any consideration for the massive, gigantic, astronomical elephant in the room. So I'll see you tomorrow night, guys. Okay, thanks for checking in and thanks for listening. Good night. Stay steady striving.